Welcome everyone, Bits and Bobs coming at you for the weekend. Happy to say here in studio we have Rory O'Connor. Rory, hello.
Hello.
And Will Slattery, of course, here.
Hey, Joe.
We are recording on a Thursday, just to fess up. From our point of view, this is a pre-Kend edition. That is because tomorrow a lot of people are scattered. Will's taking a well-earned day off. Ronan's in Munich. And also we are spending much of Friday recording an interview with Oisin Murphy, the jockey, interesting personality. So his book's out. I've been reading it. So that is being recorded tomorrow, although it's embargoed, I think, until next week. Late Show, I presume, pulling that stunt. That's what they do.
I'd say so, yeah.
That's what they do. So it's messed us around. So we're coming at you on a Thursday, so don't be confused if we're saying things like today, because we've just come in from the draw, which you're all very familiar with at this stage. Czechia, that's the Irish Independent.
There's a big debate going on upstairs, but I think if they want to be called Czechia, we should call them Czechia.
Yeah. Some of you, of course, will call them Czech Republic, but we are Czechia. So we have Czechia away, and then most likely Denmark, but could be North Macedonia at home. Oh, there was a ripple in the office.
Denmark at home has always gone well in the past, so that's
good memories.
Just when you thought this week couldn't get any better.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good draw, no?
That was as good as it was going to be.
Yeah, we're happy.
It was worth sitting through 10 montages, 2 Gianni Infantino speeches, 3 celebrity appearances, Christian Carambou, Martin Dahlin, Marco Materazzi, just to get that draw.
I was getting tired, and then Martin Dahlin walked out, and I went, where's Thomas Brolin? I want more of the Swedish 1994 team. Yeah. This is epic, but they know how to tear the hole out of a draw, don't they?
They sure do. You were just making the point off air that the season tickets for the FAI will do just fine next year now. Everyone wants to be at that game, assuming. I'm making big assumptions.
Well, I know there's still, when I checked earlier, I haven't actually got any yet. I may not. But there was a big queue on Sunday after the game. It was one of the things that was flying around WhatsApp, was the queue was over 1,000. So from a point where, to paraphrase Dan, the next meaningful game was a Nations League game in October, or whenever it is. It's a far more appetising prospect, and Christmas is but a month away, and I think it'll do very well now.
Yeah. So lots of time to build up to that game. What a week for international football, I think, is still the feeling. There's just kind of it's just so much better than club.
I was reminded of our first ever panel, I think, of pre-Bits and Bobs, when you and Connor were broadly in agreement about the fact that international windows were rubbish and were just basically an annoying interruption on, and I had to step in and say, and defend their honour. Now, Will probably bring up the fact that I wanted Heimer Hallgrim sacked on my last bits.
We can all tear each other down. What are you doing?
But yeah, I think it's
temerity of you to come in and point fingers at anyone else.
I get on the front foot.
Can I tell you? Will Slattery said the other day, let's play a clip of Rudd calling for Hamer's head. And I said, that wouldn't be right. Paul, get the clip.
I stand over that comment at the time.
Oh, yeah, you should, dude.
At the time. But
at the time.
It's been magic, hasn't it? Because you do have to go through some dross along the way, and
maybe that's
not
what
every.
But sorry, I absolutely would have said, I'm sure, that international tournaments are the greatest sport there is.
Yeah. But I think in the introduction of the Nations League, the way they've spread it out over different nights has really, it's become far more enjoyable than it used to.
Yeah.
Well, we were locked out of this joy for so long. That's why I wouldn't have any issue with someone saying prior to this window, you know what, I actually hate international windows. Let me just get back to the Premier League, because Ireland hadn't had much moments to enjoy for 7-8 years. So now I think people's tune will have changed substantially, but I think relatively recently that would have been a fairly, I say strongly held opinion.
Yeah, but some of us don't. I kind of find the Premier League quite boring, so it's kind of, I guess that's just my perspective on it. But it has, it just, watching the Scots, whatever about our own, leaping across my sitting room for the first time possibly ever, certainly for a long time, and our own experience last Sunday, to watch through the prism of someone else on Tuesday and see them go through it. And finish it off by lobbing the keeper. It's just so incredible, and it is nice to have part of that action as well. The Iraqis, watching them knock out UAE in the 107th minute of injury time, or sorry, the 107th minute of a match, was just remarkable stuff. It just means so much to so many people.
Curacao, the smallest ever nation, managed by Dick Advocat at 78 years of age. How is Dick Advocat still in their lives?
How has he ended up there?
I don't know. Yeah, and Steve McLaren was with Jamaica until he quit after losing, being knocked out by Curacao.
The internet told me Curacao. Could be
Curacao. To be fair, I hadn't come across it until the other day. So
population 156,000, the smallest country to ever qualify for the World Cup. There is the possibility, like Democratic Republic of Congo could make it, New Caledonia.
I'm all in on the prospect of a Democratic Republic of Congo versus Iraq playoff, which is on the cards now after today's draw. I'm reliably informed upstairs. Like, what a meeting of cultures. Like, this is exactly what the World Cup is all about. I think, am I right in saying Congo need to take down Bolivia? Well, it's the most inclusive, or is it the most inclusive or diverse World Cup of all time? That's
well, it will be,
that was the line I heard.
It's the largest
16
in terms of
times.
numbers. Like, all you have to do is, as you say, look at that playoff path and the extra countries that can now take part because they've expanded it like pretty substantially. There's 16 more teams than there were last time there was a World Cup. Like,
it'll make it less enjoyable once it's on, especially if we're not there because more games. But even just like after all the celebrations and all the just elation, and then just to see the 16 teams on a in front of you on a screen and going, oh, we got to get from 16 to 4. I knew we were in a playoff. But when you see it like that, it's
this
like
draw has wrestled back some of that momentum because now we have a draw that looks somewhat appetizing.
I feel much closer to the World Cup than I did pre-draw.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it's still going to take something similar to what we've just been through to do it again. Like they almost need to do it again. But like now they've done it, they've shown they can.
On international football, when it's good, just surpassing everything the club game can even aspire to. Both for players, I think, like the reaction of players is so much more profound and emotional when they do something for their country than their club, without question. And then what it does to a crowd, I know there are like very dedicated, dyed-in-the-wool fans of club teams, obviously. But like Hampden Park, this is when I knew Scotland were going to win the game. This exact moment is when I was well, Denmark don't have a chance here.
They do
go home.
They do play that before the rugby matches as well, and it doesn't always go so well.
But I mean, the shots of the crowd, there are people like they just can't scream it any louder. You know, it was just so visceral and emotional, and amazing.
And when you don't get there very often, when you don't get to these tournaments, like these matches have huge importance. It was funny, like upstairs when we were all crowded around this excruciatingly long draw. Our colleague Tom Turner, who the league, he's English, and I was kind of laughing with them. Like, England won every match and didn't concede a goal to get to this World Cup, so he doesn't understand what we're going through. Just hovering around the playoff draw. Oh, we in Pot B. Oh, we have a home draw. Like, he's like, do we not just wait until the tournament starts?
I don't want to hang Tom out to dry, but I did speak to him at the last international window when England had won a game 4-0 in the lift, and I was so much more consumed with Ireland. I was like, oh yeah, who are they playing? Because he was like, I watched a bit of it, and he was like, I can't remember. One of those European teams.
And they're consumed by melodramas as a result, because they have to find something interesting to talk about.
Yeah. It's why I was saying to you, it could be better to be a Scottish rugby fan now than an Irish rugby fan, because the
line has to be drawn somewhere, Joe.
By the way, just on that, because I presume at this stage people saw the Scottish game or know the Scottish game. It's extraordinary that it was 1-1 in the 78th minute and 2-2 in the 93rd minute and finished 4-2. It was that kind of game. But Andy Robertson spoke afterwards, and you know the way people are kind of like, what's up with Liverpool? And no one wants to kind of cheaply throw Diogo Jota's name into being part of the story, because you're just speculating and it just feels a little bit disrespectful to Jota or his family. But it was amazing afterwards, full time. Andy Robertson just introduced the fact that he had had a terrible day in advance of kickoff.
Today I've been in bits. I know that the age I'm at and everything, this could be my last chance at the World Cup. I couldn't get my mate Diogo Jota out of my head today. We spoke so much together about the World Cup. When he missed out in Qatar because of injury, I missed out. But Scotland never went, and we always discussed what it'd be like going to this World Cup. And I know he'll be somewhere smiling over me tonight, and yeah, I just couldn't get him out of my head the whole day, so I was in a bit of trouble in my room earlier, but yeah,
watching it, what a godson in his stomach.
I know, but like I said, I think I hit it well off the boys, and yeah, I'm just so glad it's ended up this way.
Yeah, the profundity is only slightly lessened by the sound of Yes Sir I Can Boogie in the background, but like it's absolutely a factor.
Yeah.
I remember that season Ronaldo had an absolute stinker at United, and it was all, you know, loads of football reasons thrown in, but he'd lost a child that year, and that had to be a factor in him tanking. Like, grief is such a, you know, personal thing to everybody, and who knows how each player is processing it, but they walked into the dressing room on the first day of pre-season, and there was an absence. There was a locker that was either emptied or, you know, hadn't been filled, and that presence is there all the time, and it's going to take them. And like, sports people are like incredibly, especially people who get to the top of the level that these guys have. They're capable of performing in incredibly difficult circumstances, but it has to be a drain on what they're on their energy, on everything. Like, why things matter less, especially in the immediate aftermath. So I think to hear him speak about it that powerfully, like it's he's very open. I mean, he always comes across very impressively, Robertson.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's you can kind of sound quite trite when you're talking about it, but it's great that he's able to draw or tell people how he's kind of dealing with it and how it was a big factor in his day and all of that as well.
Do you want to get a sense of people emailing in their various thoughts, emotions, experiences? A lot. We won't get to even tenth of all the emails. I did like this one. Hi, Joan team. Then in brackets, especially RD's finest journalist. It's Dan McDonnell, of course, from RD. Just thought I'd share a screen grab of a WhatsApp group from 2018. There were 8 lads in RD celebrating Troy's winner a little bit more than most. He puts in brackets, all 8 of whom Dan's father was a principal of once upon a time. ... A gentleman, he says.
I can verify that.
All right.
Lovely man.
So here is the screen grab. 16th of June, 2018.
I only like where this is going. I don't need any more details.
I'm getting stressed about his phone storage. Keeping messages from that long ago. Yeah.
Oh my God. Robbie. Right, lads. This is a bit in advance, but bear with me. The World Cup in 2026 is 8 years away. It's a 48-team tournament in Canada, the US and Mexico. See, people wouldn't have known this back in 2018. There's a strong chance Ireland will qualify with those numbers. The majority of us turned 40 that year. I propose a trip to the group stages. Mog, you'll be off the no-fly list at that stage.
Mog. Mog sounds like a character.
Later on in the email, the body of the email, he says, P.S. The fella referred to as Mog may have overstayed his welcome in the US at one point. We'll cross that bridge should we get there.
Mog.
He's open for Canada or Mexico.
Big time.
Trip to Guadalajara.
Lads, if you're up for it, I'm going to set up a credit union account, and if we organise a standing order of €10 a week, we will have €4,150 each by the time it rolls around. Back in 2018, $4,000 was a lot more.
Might buy him one ticket.
Obviously, a lot can happen between now and then, God knows, but where we'll be at. But I think we can wing it with partners, etc., as they are getting 8 years' notice. It'll probably be a 7 to 10 day trip taken in the group stages. Quinn, Alfie and Bull are already in.
Quinn, Alfie and Bull and Mog. This group.
Well, sorry, Mog, no promises, Mog.
Oh, no, the Bull will get him in.
The Bull will get him in, so...
That's mad.
Oh, it's great stuff.
Midway through Trump's first term as well, they probably hoped that you know...
One thing on that is so funny, like, never has time being a flat circle been so evident that when that group was created, Ireland had almost qualified for the World Cup. So it would have seemed perfectly feasible that we would get to this World Cup. But everything that has happened between that moment of starting that WhatsApp group and Troy Parrott scoring that goal would have told you there was no chance of Ireland playing in this World Cup. And yet here we are,
such a great point,
enthusing about this draw. And Quinn, Bull, Mog and Robbie are going to the World Cup.
I asked Rob what happens if we don't make it. He said, if we don't qualify, the general consensus is we head to Dallas, get some Stetsons and adopt a team.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
Curacao.
Oh man, the boys of RD, they know.
Yeah.
They know what's what.
I would like them to follow up with all their Dan McDonnell stories. I think that would be a podcast in its own.
Yeah, start a kind of a group that you can all reply to, and we'll read out a thread. Something different. Dear Joan team, as I sat in a small room on the top floor of Tala Hospital, it was nice to be able to share a moment of such joy with people who don't have as many reasons to feel positive. My dad, who has unexpectedly had to call this ward home over the last 5 months, was at least able to have a break from the mundane struggle of hospital life and revel in the glory of Thursday night with my mother and I. The sheer hilarity of the situation of Ronaldo's red card, merely the icing on the cake. From McIlroy's Irish Open win to Lowry's Ryder Cup putt, the latter of which I had to assure him had not been a dream when he woke up from an anaesthetic some days later in ICU. These sporting moments have become even more precious over the last half year, with the opportunity to share them with a loved one all the more cherished. As we gathered again on Sunday to watch in anticipation, I felt a certain honour and full circle moment in the 94th minute when Troy's fifth rattled the net, and I leapt out of my chair screaming yes with such volume as to almost frighten the life out of my dad, a habit that he himself would have periodically subjected us to as kids when the moment allowed. You can't fight your genes. And much like the scenes across the rest of the country and beyond, the rest of the ward also erupted in celebration. TVs, cheers, heard coming from every open doorway. As you said on Monday's episode, it really is a true where were you moment. I'm glad to still be able to say I was with my dad. Sean. Whoo, Sean.
That was very nice.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a minute. You say something there.
Where did you guys watch the game?
I watched it in my house with my dad, and my sister brought over her two lads, and we had the 2 5-year-olds and a 3-year-old running in and out. My son wasn't that interested. I'm beginning to fear that sport is not going to be his thing, but the other two lads were in their Ireland kits, and my dad was like, this is what it was like watching it when this was what Italian 90 was like with you guys. And it was the closest thing I've had to, like, because what for USA 94 and Italian 90, we would either go to a friend or family's house and there'd be like 30 people in the living room watching, and we'd all go out into the road afterwards. Now I live on a busy road, so we didn't go out on the road, but like everyone went on their phones, which was the modern equivalent of going out on the road now. But like all of us just like leaping into the air at Parrott's goal was just this, like, I haven't had a moment like that watching sport on TV. I can't remember the last time, so because I'm generally at a lot of the games that I care about. So it was really cool, and it was really a reminder of what the Ireland team can do for you.
Mad moment for your dad. It must be like a flashback to his youth. Oh my God, this is Italian 90 here.
Yeah, 2 5-year-olds climbing on his head and trying to get him to play while he's trying to watch the match. And I think so. And like in a year or two, they'll probably sit there and watch it with you. But it was cool. It wasn't particularly planned. It just happened that they were coming over on Sunday, and the match ended up being at 2:00, and it just worked out perfectly. And it was great. It was a really cool moment. But yeah. Nice. It wasn't quite. We didn't quite make it to Walkerton roundabout, but maybe after the playoff.
I won't read out the email. I didn't even print it off. There was one group who had made arrangements a long time ago to see friends at a villa over in Portugal, and their flight was on Thursday night out, and their flight home was on Sunday.
What?
Yeah,
I didn't see this email.
Oh yeah, but they didn't. They booked the flights months ago. It's just a travesty.
Well, it's funny. I had last Friday off, and when I left, we had a conversation, and
you were at a wedding.
Yeah, and I said to you, "Geez, like." Damien on Monday, will we definitely need to do soccer a second time? Because we'll lose tonight. We'll have Gary on Friday. That'll be a debrief. Do we actually need, so the world changed. So when they booked that holiday,
it was like our Friday morning panel after Portugal. That'll be the debrief on the group.
I was like, well, we do bits and bobs on Monday instead, and then obviously the events.
And then Eamon Dunphy popped up in your feed.
Well, I was like, hey, where did Eamon Dunphy come from?
That's Eamon Dunphy's music. I had a ticket for Portugal. I gave it away. I couldn't. I was already out once last week, and I couldn't get a babysitter a second time, and the team announcement was at 4:00. Just logistics worked against it. And I was like, look, they're not going to win anyway. And one of my friend's daughters took the ticket.
That's a bad decision.
What did you do for the match?
Which one?
Sunday.
Oh, I was just in my house. Yeah. Yeah,
fair enough.
It was fine.
I watched it on my own, man. So
on your own?
Yeah.
Where was the little guy?
My wife was away with him.
Oh, okay. It's because you were on your own.
Very isolated experience.
All around well.
You had a hands full, to be fair. It's like,
tell me. I'm going to ask you a question if you can relate to this, because I related to what our next emailer said about the goal, the moment. This is Kieran Burke, Longford Town supporter, Irish supporter. This is massively edited down. Kieran, when you started typing, you just did not stop. So I'm giving spark notes here on this. Relatively new recruit to the pod, but it's becoming a daily ritual for me. Love the show. In Budapest Sunday, going to away games for 10 years. He said I was in Yerevan that excuse me, infamous night, I was so filled with rage I could barely walk down the steps after the game. My legs and body were shaking with anger. Jesus. Anyway, on Sunday, seeing all the regulars that were in Yerevan afterwards was particularly sweet. There is a special bond between the supporters who go on these kinds of trips. Dan McDonnell always says that. So sorry, this was the point. I was going to ask if you had a bit of this, because I did. He talks about how surreal, he says surreal about 25 times in this email. I think I must have been the only one in that away end who stood totally still when the ball hit the back of the net in the 96th minute. I was honestly frozen with complete and utter shock and disbelief, and my next thought was VAR. Once it became clear we had actually scored, then I burst into uncontrollable tears. So not the tears point on my part, but I stood up off the couch and did not move. Didn't cheer, just tensely watched. You know, the celebrations that we've seen across videos? I didn't have that. I was,
for VAR.
Couldn't breathe, held breath kind of thing, yeah. So you could say in some respects, VAR ruined. It really did ruin it for me in some ways, but I was just, because, in the old days, flags down, we're celebrating. I didn't wait for the replay quite. By the time he'd whipped off his shirt and the subs were all on him, I was like, okay, this feels safe.
No, my instinct just told me, my instincts took over. I suppose the way the ball was flied into the goal, nothing immediately didn't pass the eye test as to something that would need to be referred and ruled out. And even though I was on my own, it's like, celebrate like no one's watching. No, I celebrated heartily as if I was with a room full of people. It was unbelievable.
Ray Houghton says that was his first instinct. I hope it's not offside. He was almost. How many of the videos that we've seen, and not the ones in the pubs or the airports, were filmed subsequently? I've seen it suggested that people have got their girlfriends or someone else to film them watching a replay of Parrott's goal and performing to be celebrate. I believe it's a thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
No,
I would believe it.
Would you believe that?
Yeah. We're living in dark times.
A lot of Jesus.
Yeah. Even in the concourse after the game and on the walk back into the city, it didn't feel real. I'm getting married next summer, the week after the World Cup final. My lifelong dream is to go to the World Cup. If we get there, I'll be there one way or another. Even a quick line on Thursday, my fiancée Ciara has been coming to all home games, plenty of aways for the last 6 years or so. She has seen nothing but miserable results performances. All of the away games she's been to, I think she has seen us score one goal. In 6 years. To see her dancing to Freed from Desire at the end of the match on Thursday was an amazing feeling for me. She has finally seen something from this Irish team. It's the sort of night you'll tell your kids about. Anyway, I appreciate this was a very long-winded email. It was, Kieran. But I'm just a ball of emotions right now, and I needed to get it out on the page. Thank you so much.
It can be long without being long.
Kieran is a man who feels things. The idea of him not being able to move his legs with rage in the Yerevan, just glued to his seat.
Shaking with rage.
I was really annoyed at half-time of the Armenia game.
Which one?
The home game.
Did you call for Hamer to go then too?
I think that podcast was doing afterwards. I was done with him then, yeah. Because that was such a bad, insipid, awful home performance. So I can understand having paid a lot of money to go to Armenia, which is a lot of hassle to get to, I can understand why he was dripping with rage at the side of Ireland. The Ireland midfield going missing in a scenes that were last seen the last time we played a playoff against Denmark.
Pushing that narrative because it just justifies your Heimer comments. I think that's why you're
just not going to back offering the man a contract just yet. I want to see how he does in a home playoff against Denmark. Does he take off all the midfielders? Does he pass the Martin O'Neill test?
Yeah, I know. One last one. Hi Joe, the Buzz brothers and team. Over 24 hours on from yesterday, I truly don't even know how to describe how unlikely it is, a thing that we've just seen. But one stat that encapsulates how unlikely this was is, from November 2017 until Wednesday, we had won 1 of 37 competitive games against teams ranked above us. We have now just done it twice in 3 days, including the 5th ranked team in the world. Regards, a stunned, loud citizen whose shops have no Fanta left.
Nice. The one game was against Scotland in the Nations League.
Stephen Kenny's finest hour.
I don't know for a fact. I'm just assuming.
That's incredible, I guess, I would say.
The question is whether the way the players now see themselves on the back of these two games, does that mean they're now a different team? And whether, even though they're the same group of players that will be pitching up to these games, having had these experiences, does it now just elevate them to a different level? Because we all thought there was potential there during Stephen Kenny with this group of players that came through the 21s, some of whom are Premier League regulars. There's obviously a bit of a gap in the midfield, but does this experience just, the fact that you have Keller in goal, Collins, like a really solid defence and a really solid attack, and some good players in between, that's going to be fascinating to watch, whether this was just a temporary blip for a magic 4 days or whether they're now will believe that they are a good team, and that will transform. I think it will. I think it's really important.
To that point, like the Robbie Brady goal in a somewhat similar, like unbelievable emotional goal, like that following World Cup campaign ultimately ended in that terrible defeat. But that was a good campaign. Like they did seem to feed off that. Like they went to Austria and they won. They went to Wales and they won. They got a good result away to Serbia. They got to a World Cup playoff. Obviously, it went a bit pear-shaped after that, but that did seem to kind of give a confidence surge. So I think it will.
And these games are ones where Ireland usually perform better. Like, even under dark days of Kenny, they took France to the wire at the Aviva. They were competitive against Portugal at times. Like that's what would give you a little bit of confidence. The fact that they have belief and there's players to come back. The problem is it's so far away. You just feel like you'd love to ride the crest of a wave and ensure Parrott's fit. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen in the 3-4 months until those playoffs.
I really think they're going to the World Cup now.
Yeah, I must say.
Based on the draw.
I do. I feel like to your question, I think belief is coursing through them.
Yeah,
I think they're looking around going, oh my God, we've got something. We finally got the right structure. We're hard to beat again. Oh yeah, and this sense of like, God, good things can actually happen to us. I think there must have been this doomsday vibe during the Kenny era. No matter what way we play, no matter how a match unfolds, in the end we lose. And they've kind of shattered that now, I think.
100%.
I think, oh yeah. I'd be so optimistic all of a sudden. That tough to beat quality is back.
But it's going to take something special. Like winning, we've just done something special by winning 2 games in 4 days. You're going to have to do it again against good teams. I mean, they are not the strongest teams Ireland could have been drawn against, but at the same time, it's going to take a monumental effort to get
of course
there.
It will.
This was a footballing exorcism. I do feel like the bad mojo of the last period.
If we were in Copenhagen, I'd say unlikely.
Yeah, I just think it's the only risk factors, and I don't want to be like bringing it down. I'm edging towards being more. I'm certainly more optimistic than I would have been, but I just like the gap just means so much can fizzle out. Players can lose form, players can lose fitness. On the flip side, people will come back. Ferguson will be fit, which will give them another dimension or another option. Or he might not be fit, but there's more chance he'll be fit. But I just think it's going to be hard. Like to go to Czech Republic or Czechia, the smallest stadium that was available, so it's going to be a vociferous atmosphere, and repeat what you did. Like it took a last minute winner. It wasn't like they were comfortable in Hungary on Sunday. It's going to be a big ask, but that makes it all the sweeter that it was such a great achievement.
The fact that they weren't comfortable in Hungary is what I'm grabbing onto, as opposed to Hungary were terrible, we won 2-0. It was oddly easy. Like they've been so road tested here.
Yeah.
Come here, by the way, one last one. Wayne Rooney. What is this?
This guy, Wayne
Rooney. What are you talking about?
It's a disgrace.
You'll hear in a second, Rud, and you'll be joining me in this disgusting facial expression I have. This is a guy who, when Virgil van Dijk was beside him recently on Amazon Prime,
wilted.
Wouldn't say a word to the guy. Was like all of a sudden, sorry, Virgil, and then had the temerity to go on another podcast afterwards and say, "Oh, well, I actually do agree with it. I just,
just can't say it to your
face." And then he weighed in on Ireland's celebrations.
Yeah, here he is in the overlap in front of Roy Keane. This is the greatest moment that we've had in a decade. Here's what Wayne Rooney said.
I think it was a little bit over the top, though.
What at the end? Yeah. But when
I get it, but
Wayne,
over the top.
Wayne, do you know what?
When it's just a celebration. I thought he'd actually qualify. I was like, he had to check the tables.
Ireland, you thought Ireland qualified as well.
That's what I thought, but I didn't want to feel bad.
The only thing I'd say about that, Wayne, Ireland has been so bad from the last few years, and to get the win in Hungary, last kick of the game, a lot of work to be done still to qualify, obviously. But no, I wouldn't begrudge him that moment. That's when these teams who've been struggling for so many years.
No, I get it. What Roy said, I understand that, but I just think it was a little bit too much.
That's a bit like Lucas Gerald about Munster a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
Rooney.
It's just awful.
Mind your neck,
it's
mate.
Such a bad take.
It's a shocking take. And
if Roy Keane's not backing you up on it, who would be quite happy to get stuck into Irish players.
Roy does not like a celebration, even he understands.
And I actually trimmed that clip down. Like, to be fair, Roy very eloquently and cogently explains why this was such an important moment for Irish football and why it was such a big deal.
Even need context. There's a last minute winner away from home. Like, you're allowed to celebrate that.
It's a bizarre take.
It's joyless.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It
was
Irish ancestry.
It made me think, like some people say, is he trying to deliberately get a reaction with, like, trying to be a contrarian or snarky? I just thought
he could have played for Ireland.
Yeah.
He turned us down.
We don't want him.
Yeah, no, I'm glad he did.
This is a very nice email in. Nice about us. Hope was well. Bit of a pet peeve of mine to hear someone open with this line, but I'm going to do it all the same. Long time, first time. I'm just emailing to make you aware of the icebreakers the Indo Sport podcast has been providing me with in the past few weeks. I was at a social event on Friday when I knew very few people, and naturally I spent most of the evening making polite small talk that we all revert to among strangers. I was seated for dinner with 2 people I knew, my girlfriend, her younger brother, and then 6 others I'd never met. Halfway through the meal, I struck up a conversation with the man sitting opposite my girlfriend. Once the chat drifted into sport, Ireland's win over Portugal the night before, we were off. We mentioned how great it is to actually have the Ireland-Hungary game to look forward to on Sunday, with the rugby on Saturday as well. That's where you came in. He casually mentioned he was looking forward to the rugby and catching up on No More Mr. Nice Andy Farrell, as you wrote, episode from Indo Sport podcast. Suddenly my eyes lit up. I realised I was in the presence of a fellow Indo Sport superfan. I jumped straight in. I told him I'd already listened to it. And that I was looking forward to my Saturday morning walk with Friday's soccer pod, Our World Cup Dream Stays Alive. He gives them all the episode titles. Yeah. Safe to say, the small talk ended there. We descended into a deep dive on past episodes, guests, favourite moments to date. We're both teachers. These guys really got to know each other. So we get into our cars around 4:30 p.m. every day. Hang on, I thought teachers were there working till 6, 7. That's the story I hear. And in keeping with previous emailers, it absolutely ruins evenings when we get into the car and see there's no new episode. This next line will jar with a lot of people. In my case, I have no responsibilities when I get home, so it's not the end of the world for me. But the lad I met has a 30-minute window drive home to 2 kids, and that's his vital listening window, so maybe that's something for you to work on. The reason I finally felt the need to email in is because this is now the second time your podcast has ended up as the main topic of conversation at a social event. A few weeks ago, we were knocked out of the GA. That's all he says. I don't know what he's talking about.
We anywhere.
Just kicked out of the association. A bunch of us were in the pub chatting when someone brought up an episode of The Table, and it turned out 4 of the 5 of us were daily listeners. We all agreed we're going to your next live show whenever it happens. My word of advice for anyone listening in who has an influx of social events they may not want to attend in the coming Christmas weeks is to bring up the Indo Sport podcast to all and any strangers who you may need to talk to. You'll never know who you'll spend 20 minutes talking to about the new Lily Allen album or Halloween in Derry. Wishing you all the best in the run up to Christmas. And lastly, this is the nice part of the email. Lastly, I hope the man I met on Friday night is listening to this on what he described as his ideal Sunday morning. He's just dropped his 2 boys to the local golf course and he's perched in his car now with a podcast on, followed by a well-earned nap. All the best. Alan in Wexford. What a nice moment for that man in the car right now. Alan remembered your conversation. He valued it.
Another good email.
It was a connection.
We get them together again.
I think we should.
They need to.
When we make a vow, Alan and your ex-community GAA folk come to the next live show. And it's a bit like Before Sunrise, where you'll now know if the other teacher liked you enough to show up to the next live show.
Yeah.
You can high five, have a beer, or else he won't show up. In which case, Alan,
on stage.
You could. We could warm up the crowd with this. I'll read out Alan's email and I'll ask: is Alan's friend here? Is he here at all?
Not quite a like for like, but I was at a social engagement on Friday, and the podcast does come up a fair bit.
Yeah,
mostly me bringing it up. Listen,
have you heard my podcast?
Have you heard of the show? It's Joe's face, but I'm on it too.
Oh dear. Okay, let's push on. That's emails, feelings, vibes from the week that was.
That was a good 30 minutes, it felt like.
Listen, it's nice. It is nice. You keep looking at your phone.
You're going to talk about ticket prices, aren't you?
Yeah.
Are you McCowning over there?
I'm going into my WhatsApp to get the ticket prices that we're about to talk about.
Okay.
It's relevant.
McCowning means so many different things depending on the context.
Generally not good, though.
Not good at all, but you want the info, don't you?
No. I mean, McCowning is generally not a good thing. Be it
shifty little eyes in that seat, usually.
Avoiding your children or looking at your phone when people are talking to you. So the RFU held their kind of money press conference. Kevin Potts, CEO, was there. Ticket prices kind of caught the imagination a little bit. We're keeping this evergreen in case you are listening, for instance, on a Sunday after dropping your 2 children to golf and having your nap. So the match was obviously on Saturday night, or is on Saturday night. IRFU talked about ticket prices a little bit. They are a commercial reality, was the line used by Kevin Potts. So like this window for Japan, 81.60 for adults was the price. Australian tickets range from €126 to 136, and then for South Africa, I think cheapest tickets 150 odd, and they go up to 160 with booking fees.
Lower, the category 5s were 100. It went from 100 up.
Ah,
the list I was looking at.
Is there a category 5? They only got to 4.
He listed it on the. I saw on Ira a few.
I don't. Yeah, I think
it's on the Irish Rugby website.
Let's go with category R 160 plus booking fee for now.
But that's not the lowest.
I know, yeah.
Okay.
But more like pricey ones, 160. So Kevin Potts making some of the usual points he makes this time every year, I suppose, or the CEO makes this time every year. Smallest stadium. We only have 4 or 5 games. These games basically bankroll the entire running of the game across the board. And he said as well, broadcast money has stagnated in the last 5 or 6 years. He thinks broadcast value is going to go up with the new Nations. What's it called?
Nations Championship.
Nations Championship. They have to stop. No more nations allowed in.
It'll be tournaments. Insert sponsors here. Nations Championship in a year's time.
Well, I look forward to that. So he said broadcast money is going to go up, and yeah. Oh, on Chicago, by the way, delivered far more money than we'd budgeted. Although he did acknowledge it had been a disgrace of an experience. My words, not his. He says, there were definitely failings in Soldier Field, which we all saw. I don't want to go into too much detail, but we all... but there were... but we're there to play a game. Anyway.
We're there to play a game, and the management company or the event hosts were a neutral party between New Zealand and Ireland. I think they trusted that the event organisers would have all their ducks in a row. I think next time they play in the US... they will be far more hands-on in terms of making sure that the event is far better.
He said, I would expect at future games in the US, you'll see a significant improvement.
Yeah.
And the overall financial situation, very, very strong. It's interesting. They're only saving €1 million from axing the men's sevens programme, but it's $1 million saved. What are we saying about the ticket prices thing? It is €160 for good seats to watch a game of rugby is obviously a lot of money and has increased a lot on, say, the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. But I guess they would argue market forces. If we're filling the stadium, then the price is pitched just right. And the experience economy is not cheap across the board, so we're no different.
He strongly rejected the idea that it's a corporate day out.
Did you ask him that?
No, Jerry Thorney asked it, and I think has written that phrase enough that Kevin Potts was pretty irked by it.
Do you agree with that corporate day out thing?
I'm in the press box, so it's hard for me to tell. Will's probably better placed to answer that in terms of going to the game. And
the real pet peeve of mine is journalists weighing in, honestly, about the atmosphere and the stadium experience when they don't actually partake in it. I don't know if journalists are necessarily best placed to weigh in on what the match day experience is like. I go to a lot of Ireland games sitting in like just regular seats. So do I think it's a corporate experience? Somewhat it is. Like there are huge sections of corporate seats. Like I know like some of the big sponsors have they could have 3-4 rows of like hundreds of people who file in just as the game is kicking off with their tote bags. Like, is that the kind of supporters that are going to create a vociferous atmosphere? Not necessarily, but I don't think it's as widespread as some of the journalism would have you believe. I think the matchday experience is a lot better personally than is painted. It's an easy punching bag. You're not going to you're going to get a lot of views saying it's a corporate elitist crowd that they have no clue about rugby and everyone's getting for the drinks the entire time. That's not my experience going to a lot of matches, I must say. So I don't think it's as bad. I don't think it's the best atmosphere in world rugby, but I think some of the commentary is unfair, and it's actually I'd like those people to experience it themselves to see what they actually think.
The breakdown of corporates against club tickets has not shifted. So the RFU tickets are sold in 3 tranches. There's the 10-year ticket holders who are a big tranche, and they're the most important tranche to the RFU because that's money in the bank. So you got 10 years worth. And at the price, I don't have the figures on that, but I know the price for those has gone up in the last round. Then you have the no tickets go on general sale unless one of these comes up short. The next go through the clubs and the provinces, and then you have the corporates, which is a certain percentage. I don't have it to hand. The problem I think we're having now, if it is a problem, is that the clubs, because it's cost so much, particularly the vast majority of tickets go to AIL clubs. It costs a fortune to run an AIL Division 1, 2, any team because of the cost of going across the country, and it's harder for people outside of Dublin to come to Dublin to watch a match, particularly with some of the kickoff times. They're finding it harder to sell to their members, and a lot of the time they're bundling them up and selling them to travel packages, which are ending up in corporate hands. Or, in the case of this weekend, I'm led to believe by people in the industry, there's a huge amount of South Africans coming over and a huge amount of English fans coming over to see this game because it's the game of the weekend. The England game last year, the France game last year in particular, the French got their hands on thousands and thousands of tickets, which actually made the atmosphere better. But they're finding ways to get the tickets they're selling the seats out, but I think the demographic of who's going has shifted. Part of that is the fact that so many players come from Leinster and the people from the provinces are less engaged with the team. It's anecdotal evidence, but I get that a lot through people talking to me. And then it's just not the RFU's fault, but on top of those ticket prices, it's incredibly expensive to stay in Dublin overnight. So to come up for an 8 o'clock kickoff or 8:10 as it was last Saturday, or even at 5:30, the price of hotels is expensive, the price of a pint is expensive, everything's expensive in Dublin. So I think there's a couple of market factors, but the RFU will just go back to the fact that this is the price, people buy it, we generally sell out. We came close with Japan, the least attractive of all the games, with the least attractive kickoff. They still got more than 50,000 tickets sold. So they'll continue to sell at these prices until people stop coming. And the one time we had a ticket price drop was around when the Aviva just reopened and they priced it too high in the recession, and there was empty seats at games like South Africa and Australia, and they had to have a rethink. But because they're selling it out, it's just creeping up every window, just that little bit. They think they've benchmarked it against Twickenham, events, all sorts of things. They reckon they've got it right. They went to an independent contractor. But when you compare the crowd to, say, a World Cup crowd or a Leinster-Munster crowd at Croke Park, it's a very different crowd. And there are thousands of people who would like to go to Six Nations games who either feel like they can't afford to go or feel like because they're not members of rugby clubs, they don't have access to the tickets. So it's a constant struggle. It's a topic that they have to face at these events, but they don't like talking about that much. They've stopped publishing the ticket prices on their website the way they used to. It's definitely a little bit of a sore point, but as long as people buy them, they'll keep selling them for that price.
To give context about, so England played the All Blacks last weekend. I checked, the category 1 to 4 was between €115 at the lowest and €220 at the highest. So for this one, it's I think €110 to €160. So it's a lot more competitive than England, selling a big game in Twickenham. As long as the team is performing well, the price will stay high. We're probably, say if the last week we're talking about 2017 was the last time the Irish football team was really rocking. If Irish rugby went through an 8-year period like this, the tickets would not be as expensive. It's just the team is performing well enough that there's a demand to go. Rud, you've been probably watching rugby a long time. The team hasn't always been as popular as they are now. If the tickets in 2005 were being charged at this price, I don't think it would have sold out the way that the games do now. So I think that is a factor as well. And one thing though that does annoy me is, by way of explanation, Kevin Potts mentions we have the smallest stadium in the Six Nations. That's a huge issue. That goes back to when it was built. A catastrophic decision to have such a small stadium. It's ridiculous that Ireland, the best supported team, was the smallest stadium. And for that reason, as he says, they have to charge a certain price point. One thing that's worth mentioning is that the IRFU have to foot the bill for the 11 most expensive players in the country. The central contracts, they're not cheap. So that money has to come out of it as well. It's not just that the money that filters down for the grassroots. There's kind of a salary element to it that maybe the FAI or the GA don't have to, they don't have to pay the guys playing at the top of the game. They do a little bit here. And ultimately, do I think between €110 and €160 is value for money to watch the hottest ticket to come to the Aviva Stadium in 2 years for a rugby match? I think it probably is. Now, he also says, he doesn't say it's cheap or he says it's expensive. He acknowledges, he's not saying this is an affordable ticket for all the family, but does it represent value for money? I would argue it probably does, considering how high profile the Springboks are, whether they're back-to-back world champions. There's a difference between kind of good value or cheap or getting a good deal, and if it actually is a fair potential price for what you're receiving, I would say. That's how I would look at it.
They contribute, these games contribute 80% of the revenue.
Yeah, I was going to ask, it's still 80, is it? Yeah,
it's more than 80, and they're maxed out on sponsorship as far as I'm aware. So one of the reasons they're going global and trying to play games in the States is to try and bring in additional sources of revenue and open themselves up to more international sponsors, because right in this market, maxed out. Broadcast is flattened and even declined in the last couple of years. That's another massive issue for them and a red flag. Yeah. Obviously, the Nations Championship, they're hoping will lift both sponsorship and broadcast revenue, but it's not big, and they're spending more money on women's rugby than they ever have, which is the right thing to do, but that money has to come from somewhere, and the Sevens paid the price essentially to fund the women's 15s programme. They said they may end up cutting more programmes in the next year. I would be worried about the women's Sevens programme personally, because they are basically on a line by line going through every expenditure they have within the RFU, because they know they can't bring in any more revenue at the top end. They're going through, they're cutting at the bottom, and they're trying to look at kind of trying to get the provinces to use the same accountancy software and all this sort of stuff. These boring things that no one is really that interested in, to try and make the savings to keep them at the top. Now they're sitting on a lot of land. They've got a lot of property in the Dublin 4 area. I think initially they probably hoped to buy up enough houses on Havelock Square that they could extend the stadium. That's not happening. I asked that yesterday. There's no scope to build a proper stand in the north end of the ground, and because they've signed a new deal with Aviva that takes them, I think, to 2030. I could be wrong about the date.
New 5-year deal.
New 5-year deal. They are not allowed within that deal to take a game to Croke Park.
That's an absolute killer. Like
they say financially,
but not being able to extend the stadium, you're putting a hard cap on how much you can actually grow the sport. With the best will in the world, if Ireland were the double world champions and like everyone was having a rugby ball in their hands, it would still only be 50,000, which is crazy.
And like rugby's mad against Croke Park. South Africa and New Zealand are playing a 4-test series next summer with 3 games in South Africa, and they're playing 1 on European soil. They approach Croke Park. They want to get into Croke Park. London's off the card, so they're trying to find a stadium that's the right size. There's something on in Croke Park that week. I don't get the sense the RFU would be too keen on it anyway. But like rugby's mad to get into Croke Park. We could see a Nations Championship final played in Croke Park in the next 10 years, with maybe the other games in the Aviva, kind of a Dublin weekend. Like Leinster will continue to play games in Croke Park as long as they think they can sell tickets. The EPCR will be back as well. But the RFU have locked themselves into a deal where they can't play in the stadium. And I know it's not a great venue for rugby, but if it opened up to 30,000 more people being able to come and being able to sell a few cheaper tickets on Hill 16, it would be huge for even just allowing people to come and watch the team, because
the goodwill that would generate being able to, even though it's not as if every ticket would be like reasonably priced, but you'd be able to sell enough tickets at a good price that, like, as you say, it would open up to that World Cup crowd where the atmosphere was so different. It was a lot more representative of people following the sport as a whole.
Like Andy Farrell talks a lot about inspiring the nation, and like during the 2023 World Cup, the connection they had with their fans, and that was a moment. It wasn't quite, I don't think, on the same scale as a Troy Parrott, but I think it was the biggest the Irish team has ever been. But unfortunately, because of those prices, not everyone can come to those games, and it's very hard to get tickets in the first place.
I don't think it's the prices. I think it's availability.
I think it's both.
Maybe it is. Look, I appreciate, like, there's a cohort of people who, whether it's 100, 120, 160, if they want to bring kids or if they want to go up themselves and it's a day out, it's just unaffordable, right? It's unaffordable.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those people out there. And 120 of like just discretionary, why not? I'll get a ticket, is as bad as 160. It's just not within their reach. But I think then there is a sizable cohort of people who have some discretionary spend, who go to concerts and give phone companies 40, 50 quid a month for their phone bill, and, just are they're getting pinged by everyone. Like, everything is so expensive. You go into a shop now, you're like, what? How much? So I think the tickets are part of that, but I think the main thing stopping that huge cohort of people is availability as opposed to the 160. I think they'd pay the 160 and be like, Jesus, like, this is the only game we're going to in November, and like, this is a major treat, but we can stomach it. But they just can't get hands on tickets. Yeah, that'd be the majority of people I know. Now, the 160, it's Sting, and plenty of them would say it's not worth it. But I think there's a lot more people who'd want to pay the 160 and just can't go.
Yeah, which also creates demand, which means that if your office does get one as part of a corporate, you're going to go. Like, that's the. So like it's. I think it's just going to be one of these things that we keep revisiting, and they know that they have to keep pushing those prices.
But it would be lovely, as you say, Croke Park. You suddenly have 20,000 tickets, which are priced really well. It still won't be enough. You'll still have lots of people saying, I can't get a ticket for the €85 ticket is gone, and probably gone first. But it would be, as you said, good for the atmosphere, good for the feeling around Irish rugby. I think the players never say it out loud, but like, can we play in front of the World Cup crowd more often? Like, they're never going to say that, but like, that's what they think for sure.
Good for the RFU as well, because he said, financially it's not viable as well, because the Aviva deal is worth more to them, or is more secure than what the extra 30 grand in tickets would have been.
It's why the World Cup was so good for the sport, because it showed actually the team of us think, but it showed that wasn't completely hollow. It was like, oh my God, the jerseys, the colour, the singing, the demographics of people. It was like, oh, so these are the people who watch on TV when we see a million viewers.
I was about to say that. It matched up.
They're out, they're real.
Because people might look at those numbers and look around their own lives and be like, how is there a million people watching an Ireland rugby match? But at the World Cup, you saw it. It was very similar to like the crowd that went to the Euro 2016 or something like that. It was like a real broad cross-section of people from around the country, ages, young and old. And like, I do agree, you don't see as broad a cross-section at like an Ireland Home International because of the points we've already raised. But I thought that's what I agree with you. It matched up with like the numbers watching it.
Yeah.
They actually had access to tickets. And to your point about access, I know people who've probably watched every Ireland game for 20 years and they've never had the ability to buy a ticket.
No. I'm going to call it a day. I'm not going to get to Zorantia. We'll do it next week for sure. The great, who announced his retirement yesterday. There were some emails on our sports journalism pod. I know you wanted to talk about that. Will wanted to talk about cricket.
Why not get 60 seconds?
I was going to ask for your predictions so that you can look foolish on Sunday when people listen for the game on Saturday.
Let's get some cricket first. The world needs to hear the Ashes.
Okay.
I was just going to mark people's card that the Ashes is starting overnight. When people listen to this podcast, they might be able to turn on TNT Sport and actually watch the end of day one of the first Ashes test. It's being held up as England's best chance to win on Australian soil for, 15 years. Their last 3 trips to play there in the Ashes, they haven't won a single test. So they played 15 tests and haven't won one. So they've been dreadful in Australia. But the first test is their best chance to make a strong start. Australia are missing their two of their best bowlers, Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood. And England are off the back of, I talked about it a couple of months, well, maybe weeks ago, that unbelievable test series against India. The drawn test series already captured the imagination. So unfortunately, with the time difference, I think only one test is played kind of in the evening time that you could kind of watch maybe an extended period of it from our vantage point. But you'll get the end of a few days' play from like maybe 7 a.m. onwards. And the Ashes is an unbelievable spectacle. So this first test is probably as good as it's going to be for those reasons with the Australian injuries. So I'll be watching it tomorrow morning. Hopefully some people listening right now are sitting down doing it.
Turn it on. No one loves sport as much as Will Slattery.
It's incredible.
He just loves sport.
But it was coming, like, being in Australia during the Lions, like, how hyped they are for this.
Oh, really?
We were taking the dinner in the SCG members room, which a few of us didn't appreciate as much as we should at the time. I have an SCG tie at home, but it was all about trying to get people to come from England for this event. I missed it, but there was a tour of the MCG where an Irish journalist infamously said, "What's a 6?" to one of his English colleagues, which absolutely caused consternation. They couldn't believe that someone in their late 30s/early 40s, I think late 30s, has lived this long without knowing what a 6 is. They just can't.
And a rugby journalist, no less.
Yeah, I know. They can't understand how it's just not part of our lives. But it is it's such a big deal over there. It's going to be like, even just looking at their media around last week's Ireland game, they were talking about the Ashes last week.
And so, will this culminate on Stephen's Day? Is it?
Oh, it blows past Stephen's Day.
But it will be. It's Stephen's Day thing.
Yeah, Stephen's Day.
It's the SCG for Christmas, isn't it?
25 degree.
Matt Williams always heads into that
30-degree heat. Yeah, it's a funny vista when we're having our Christmas dinner and it's cold and you're looking at Australia playing cricket. It's mad. Yeah.
Nice. All right, then go on. Just give me a team and by how many.
It's either Ireland by 2 or South Africa by 20. I'm leaning more and more towards Ireland by 2, but that'll look very silly on Sunday if they just got blown.
I just want to apologise, listeners, if you're listening on Sunday. It's embarrassing. That's an embarrassing
You wearing the green jersey as well.
That is a shocking prediction. Can you do better?
I'm going to go with Ireland by 3.
I'm sorry, everyone. It's
embarrassing.
You're going with the box.
It's embarrassing. They've
got
it so wrong.
South Africa overthinking it. They want this one so badly that it'll cause them to make some muddled decisions. That's what I'm thinking.
Sunday listeners are laughing at you guys now.
I reserve the right to change my mind for Saturday's paper.
Okay.
What are you going for?
I don't have to say.
You do.
I'm not. It's the host prerogative.
You're the Six Nations rugby host. You should be weighing in 2-footed in all these discussions.
I only talk Six Nations. I ignore the November Internationals.
When I spoke for a couple of minutes about the tickets, and you were just looking at me with this, like, I was like, is he thinking? Is this the most boring thing he's ever said? Or is
I thought you were.
And then you just turned to Rod. You didn't even say. You didn't acknowledge I'd spoken. I was like, God,
sorry,
that can be chopped out.
Maybe this should be upstairs. No,
sorry.
Sorry, baby. We probably should say this for afterwards.
I thought you. I thought it was very interesting, and you straddled a difficult line, which is almost to say, these are the prices, and explained it really well. And I thought it was a point well made, and I just went, Didn't need me to be like, I agree. Over to you, Rud. So I thought it was very, very good.
Are we going to analyse any more of the podcast?
It would be very easy to be like, the ticket prices are a disgrace, and I stand with the people. You know what I mean? You could do that.
Yeah.
But you took a slightly braver line. I admired it.
I wouldn't have gleaned that from your reaction. No, not that
I can have a severe face at times. It's a curse.
You weren't doodling, so maybe I had engaged.
No, you really had. All my life, people have come up to me like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Nothing. I'm just sitting here." I have that. It's a curse.
Resting severe face.
Yeah, exactly. But then, like, the alternative was like sit there with a half grin all the time. You know what I mean?
You have to listen to a lot of people talk.
Yeah, well,
over the course of a week.
It's been a long week. Yeah.
Good week though.
Yeah, good week. Listeners don't even know we were in Slattery on Tuesday.
Yeah.
They'd have no idea.
Yeah.
We recorded 3 podcasts Monday. We did a whole show in Slattery coming to you over Christmas, and we're back for Wednesday. They've no idea that
Few days in lieu coming up.
Yeah.
For my sins, I went on the YouTube comments for the left wing, and none of them had any idea about Troy. Like a lot of South Africans weighed in as they tend to do around these times of year, and they're like, "What are they talking about for minutes 1 to 5?"
I can't.
In the whole section of the world.
Give it to the South African YouTubers on Monday. Oh, with relish. They're the worst rugby nation. No, I'm not going to do that.
They were fairly nice on the one on Tuesday, were they? Or I didn't go too deep below the line.
Yeah.
They're nice on. I just glanced at the Madigan ones. They're all fairly.
Just wait till
nice.
Their starting number 5 is sent off in the 4th minute of the game and see how.
Well, it's a strange phenomenon. Like you publish a YouTube video about rugby, and then 200 comments, and you know that means South Africans have gone in. Like
so into it.
It would be like 50 with the Irish, and then they just supercharge it. They love their YouTube.
Yeah, they do. Love their rugby. Love their YouTube. What else of the podcast do we need to review? I don't know.
We're good.
We're good.
Go follow the team.
Yeah. Prendergast in.
Prendergast in, yeah. Big call. To be discussed.
Talk about that next week, yeah. Will, thanks very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Rory Carter, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. All right, guys, we will talk to you on Monday. Keep an eye out on Saturday evening. Sinead, Keane and Rudd will be talking about the game on the whistle as well. Chatty then.